Others may join us. We've had over 100 people register, and people may join as we progress with the meeting. My name is Suraya Jawadeen. I'm with TUED. TUED stands for Trade Unions for Energy Democracy. It's a network of unions and allies that are working to advance democratic control and social ownership of energy. It takes into account looking for solutions to the climate crisis. It looks at how we address energy poverty, how we prevent further degradation of land and the people, and attacks on workers' rights. TUED was established in 2012. It's a network made up of trade unions, labor federations, social movements, and policy allies from countries both in the global north and global south. The TUED network is committed to a transition for a low carbon future. In October of 2022, TUED launched a South platform for cooperation in Nairobi, Kenya, and that platform is called TUED South. The purpose of the platform is to advance a public pathway to a just energy transition. And by public pathway, TUED means ensuring that the energy transition does not increase the burdens of debt and poverty. This is part of a ongoing series of regional quarterly meetings. They convened as part of organizing a platform for the region where we present policy, we share experiences, we reflect on country experiences, and basically learn from each other. We have a very interesting program today. We're going to take a few short updates on some country reports and organizational reports, and then we'll get into a presentation, a very exciting presentation, new work, research being done by our comrades in Tunisia. So just a few house rules. One, comrades may find themselves interrupted around time management, that for the speakers, and maybe also when we have some discussion, we may interrupt because we're really looking at ending at 5:30, and some of the inputs are quite detailed, and we don't want to run out of time. We want to keep some time for discussion. And then we'll also, and so comrades from TUED who have been joined, who are helping with the meeting in the background, Comrade Irene, Comrade Brian, who is also going to present, Comrade Lala, and Comrade Sean. So without wasting any more time, I want to ask Comrade Brian Kamanzi, who is a researcher at TUED, to take about 5 minutes, please, Comrade Brian, and reflect on some updates on the South Africa's electricity unbundling developments. So over to you, Comrade Brian.
Morning, afternoon, everyone. Greetings, comrades from all over the continent and some comrades joining from other parts of the world. I'm going to be giving an update on some of the developments of South Africa. I know I have a very short time, so just some very quick context here is that South Africa is the continent's largest electrical energy producer. About 80 to 85% of its energy comes from coal. And historically, at least since over the last 60 years or so, the energy system has been dominated by a vertically integrated utility called Eskom. Now, for almost half that period, the idea of liberalizing the electricity system has been around, predating democracy. So there have been reformers that element is not new. I would say if we're looking at the updates that we're going to be discussing today and what is really hitting the news cycles in South Africa about so-called stalled progress as it relates to unbundling, I do want to make clear here that the impetus for the unbundling of Eskom in South Africa really found a new expression in the declining 2020, 2021, a massive load shedding crisis in the country that made international news. We've discussed many times at our regional meetings. Declining performance of public infrastructure, both in generation and also in distribution. Transmission segment actually is quite strong. And that is the byproduct of declining levels of investment, but also a sap on the utility that came as a byproduct of two factors. One, a flawed financing mechanism from how municipal rates are basically calculated, or how municipalities themselves are calculated, are financed, and how it has created a debt cycle between the funding of municipalities and their inability to pay the utility. At the same time, there have been a number of large mega projects that have been overbuilt and have involved a considerable degree of corruption that has caused a drain on the utility. Now, unbundling was pitched as something that was going to solve the crisis in a number of key ways. At the governance layer, it's being purported to improve efficiency and improve it as a vehicle to introduce good governance mechanisms in the utility, which is cited as one of the key issues, but also crucially to introduce competition. And that the future, we're told, as many countries have been told, is that the future is to move towards a future shape of the electricity sector that is an unbundled one, that reflects a liberalized sector, echoing reforms that have happened in Chile, United Kingdom, the European grids, which I think is the largest regional zone that has successfully, quote unquote, successfully implemented that reform process. Now, in the news today, which is what I want to really drive home here, there are a lot of lobbyists and some renewable energy firms, representatives from renewable energy firms, which are expressing concern and uncertainty that Eskom is backsliding on its progress to unbundle, because essentially what the structure that the South African government is moving towards is a form of horizontal unbundling. So what's happening is that the segments of the utility generation, transmission, and distribution are being placed under subsidiaries under the holdings company of Eskom. And the hope from the private lobbyists was that the transmission layer and the transmission system operator would move fully out of the holdings company, move out of government ownership, which would allow non-discriminatory grid access. So what does that mean? There is a concern, and that concern is rooted in historical precedents in other markets, that if the transmission system operator remains in the public domain, that will influence its procurement decisions, which would then influence the outlook for private investors who are looking to participate in the most healthy for-profit sector, which is generation, right? So for those of us who are interested in, energy as a public good and for the value of public planning, that isn't that we don't view that ability to control and direct procurement as being an inherently negative thing. In fact, it's a crucial element of the public pathway. I don't have time to talk too much about that, but what I will say is this. From what I have looked at, and from I've been now TUED for 3 years, we've had the opportunity to look at a number of different utilities all over the world. You will fail. This is my claim. You will fail to find a similar economy anywhere else in the world, where this has been executed successfully. I'll give you 150 years of evidence to look through. If you can find it, I'll eat my hat at the next TUED regional meeting. In essence, what is actually happening with South Africa's unbundling is completely predictable. So reform in the short term, the reformers have won the argument within government. South Africa is moving to unbundle. That is true. However, if you look at economies, and you can go into the next slide, Irene. If you look at Vietnam, if you look at Mexico, if you look at South Korea, there are several other cases. In fact, also Ireland, if you're looking in Europe, when you had large vertically integrated utilities with high debt burdens, and most crucially, a big political sensitivity to electricity prices increasing, it has become very politically expensive to actually fully implement the full version, the full-blooded version of the unbundling story. Why is that? to actually implement cost-reflective tariffs, which is a prerequisite for full-scale unbundling, would mean because you can't wish the high debt burden of the utility as it exists today. You can't wish it away. It would mean extremely high tariffs, which have to be phased in over the same path that you are in. We are also talking in the context of the energy transition. That rationalization of tariffs, just to align with the new regulatory structure, overlaps with the same period that you are looking to rapidly build out renewable energy, rapidly build out transmission infrastructure. So the private capital players are saying Eskom is stalling. They're not separating their assets in a way that make it attractive for us to invest. So they are falling behind on their promises. Eskom and the government are saying, look, we need to politically manage the process. What we are saying, what TUED is saying, and what many of our union partners on the ground are saying is that the government will not be able to thread the needle with this approach. They will not be able to politically manage the fallout from the liberalization process. They are trying to buy horizontally unbundle. They're trying to signal to private capital markets that South Africa is ready for investment, that they're going to keep making promises to de-risk and to provide incentives for private capital to participate in transmission, to participate in reliability services, to participate in generation. At the same time, the government recognizes and it knows, which is why it is also setting up a new public renewables company under Eskom, is that it must hedge its bets because the evidence also shows us that private capital will not necessarily come to the party. But energy is still a requirement for industrial and commercial applications, but also for basic needs to basically reproduce our lives.
Comrade Brian, you must start winding up, no?
Yes, 15 seconds or less. I'll just say this. We are in the last slide, Comrade Irene, and I will share these. You guys will have access to them. You can just see it. Just to say, what we are seeing in South Africa is completely expected. What is coming next after is that we will have the first wholesale electricity market of its size established in Africa on the 1st of April. We are going to have a Frankenstein monster of a blend between public management and private measures to enable private access. This process will fail. We will see declining investment. We will see rising tariffs, which will lead to a backlash. And that, comrades, is where we step in. We will be ready with a public pathway, and we will be re-emphasizing that a public goods approach is central both to an industrial strategy for South Africa, but also to actually achieving the levels of coordination we need to decarbonize our economy. So thank you, comrades, and I'm looking forward to hearing the other updates and Comrade Ellis's paper next.
Thank you, Comrade Brian. There was a lot in that presentation, and we'll have to find platforms to reflect a little more detailed way, because there's a lot happening there, but we thank you for that summary. Before we move to the next speaker, I want to encourage everyone in the meeting to please share in the chat your name and where you're from and your organization, and just say hello if you can. Our next speaker is a comrade who has a long association with TUED. He's Comrade Edmund Darko. He's the former head of research at the Public Utility Workers Union of the Trade Union Congress TUC in Ghana. There have been some recent developments in Ghana around privatization of the energy utility, but Comrade Edmund hopefully will use his 5 minutes to flag some key issues for us in terms of the experience in Ghana. Welcome, Comrade Edmund, and thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you, everyone. This is not a new thing, as we may be aware, but the situation is not getting better for us with the government inclination to the private sector participation in the energy distribution sector in Ghana, where ECG, Electricity Company of Ghana, and Northern Electricity Distribution Company operated. So fast forward, this whole thing started in January when the government signaled that it wanted to seek PSP in the distribution subsector to ensure efficiency and enhance service delivery. So this triggered the unions, TUC and its affiliate, to, as it were, based on the ideological stance on privatization. We came out strongly with a position paper that was followed up with a press conference. So in the press conference, we highlighted the historical challenges or failures of privatization in Ghana and by extension, Africa. So this started some sort of engagement. So we made a plan, about 6 months plan, that was led by the union with the management. So we met the Minister of Energy and Green Transition, where in that plan, we needed to have some commitment from management, some commitment from the ministry. And indeed, we had that. The idea was that, or the major concern for the minister then was that collections were poor, in that we're not able to get money to pay the various stakeholders in the energy supply chain. So this strategy started in July last year. And thank God, everything went on smoothly. When we started, monthly revenue collections were around 900 million Ghana cedis. And as of December last year, we had improved monthly collections on average to 1.75 billion Ghana cedis. And this was actually commended and applauded in Parliament by the Minister of Finance, the Majority Leader, and by extension, some of the IMF report admitted that there was some kind of improvement in the energy distribution sector in terms of collections. And that has also translated into stable power. Now, if you ask Ghanaians, they'll tell you that the doomsday is something of the past. And when I say doomsday, it's like power outages are something of the past. But yet, we hear that government is now blaming workers that there's some kind of staff misconduct, which is something in every organization. If you don't strengthen your internal controls, people will take advantage of the gaps in the system. So similar thing happened in NETCO, Northern Electricity Distribution Company, which also operates in the northern part of Ghana. And their major concern was losses. And they also managed to reduce losses from about 47% to about 39% in the northern part of Ghana, where losses were actually a concern to them. So now our major worry is that while the company is making these gains, we are overturning the fortunes of these two companies. That's when the government is on the bench of seeking this. And the last of it is that, I understand, was it last week or sometime this year, the minister has submitted a PSP bill to Parliament for consideration. Secondly, it has also constituted some technical committee, PSP technical committee in ECG, all towards ensuring that there's a smooth PSP arrangement in the distribution subsector. This is something we find quite worrying. So our question is that, who will change a winning team? Who will sell the hen that lays a golden eggs? Because at the point that we had crisis, you didn't come out with it. The time that things are improving, that's when we are significantly on bent of seeking this privatization. And we have also outlined a number of challenges that if we are to go ahead with this privatization, it's going to affect energy security. It's going to, anytime we have this private sector entities in the chain, prices go up because we know their motive. They are for profit, not for welfare. We're also saying that the areas that we are getting extension in rural and low-income communities, they will not receive electricity because that will not be the focus of the private entity. All this will affect or contribute to energy poverty in Ghana. Now we are doing well. We are getting on average about 89% household access to electricity. And this can be affected because the private entity's concern is not about the welfare of the populace, but rather their profit margin they are seeking. So we are calling for, and the TUC and its affiliate are of the firm concern that we are not going to sit and look for this to go through. We are going to fiercely oppose any form of PSP with the last blood of workers in Ghana. So this is our concern, and this is a fact the TUC and its affiliate have committed to do, seeking that this PSP will not see the lay of life. Of course, the government is also strategic and is bent on doing it. So this is a critical challenge for us. It's a critical challenge because when the bill goes to Parliament, the challenge, most significant challenge is that if you look at the composition of Parliament now, the ruling government has the overwhelming majority. So even if the minority decide to stage a walkout on this bill, the majority can still constitute a quorum to take a decision on it. This is our fear. It's our fear at the moment that we are doing further engagement. Yesterday, for instance, there was some engagement with Public Services Workers Union. I'm out of town today. I'll go back this evening. Tomorrow that I'll get update of that meeting with the minister. But as it is, comrades, it's not getting better. It's not getting better. Thank you.
Edmund, you'll have to wind up, please.
Yes. So what I'm
Yes,
saying
sure.
is that in conclusion is that the situation is not getting better, but we are also doing all our best as trade unions to oppose this government decision and agenda. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for that summary, Comrade Edmund. Also, like the South African case study, lots of detail that we still need to understand. The role of the private sector, why now? But we'll have to find space to further engage on these examples that are emerging on the continent. Some have similar patterns, some have country-specific historical patterns. I want to move now and welcome to those who have just joined us. We're taking short country reports and then we're going to get into the main presentation. Our next speaker and the last one in terms of updating us and short reports is Comrade Sandra van Niekerk. She's the PSI Global Policy Officer for LRGs, which are utilities, and these utilities that PSI are focusing on include energy, and she focuses on climate change. Sandra, I'm handing over to you for a few minutes to update us on some of the work you're doing. And you have about 5 minutes, please.
Thanks very much, Sarah. I probably won't even take 5 minutes, so if that helps you find some time for questions for the previous two speakers, that'll be great. So I'm not going to give a country report. What I'm going to focus on is some of the developments in PSI, which is the Public Services International. We held the Africa Regional Congress, which happens every 5 years or 4 years. It was held in November last year, the 11th to the 14th of November in Accra, Ghana, Edmund's country. So it was great to be there. Thank you, Edmund. And I think one of the important, so what we're focusing on as PSI in the region is to look at how to build and strengthen the work that affiliates are doing, both in terms of issues facing workers on the ground, but also some of the sectoral issues that trade unions and workers are facing. So as a result of that, we've made a commitment to build sectoral structures and sectoral networks across the region. So there'd be one for energy, water, waste, local government, health. And the purpose of such sectoral networks would be to encourage organizing in the sector, so to encourage the organizing of workers into energy unions across the continent, give trade unions an opportunity to focus on sector-specific issues. So sometimes it's important to look at broad public sector issues, but sometimes it's important to look at sector-specific issues. It gives people an opportunity to learn from each other and share experiences, build a regional voice as PSI, energy unions, and develop policy coherence. So that's the kind of framework within which PSI is looking to operate and build the sort of voice of energy trade unions across the continent. I think in the program of action sort of that was adopted at Africon recommitted PSI to campaigning for universal energy, to renewable energy transitions, where energy is centered as a public good. So very much as TUED so ably argues and does research around, and basically to strengthen energy affiliates. We managed to have a network meeting together with TUED at the PSI Africon, and had a number of countries, affiliates from different countries that were there: Ghana, Uganda, Kenya, Nigeria, Malawi, Rwanda, and Sierra Leone. And I think what was important and what was very clear was that affiliates in all these countries are facing very similar experiences. As Edmund has outlined, sort of high levels of energy poverty, pressure to privatize, massive pressure to kind of privatize, problems of financing, etc. So I think it was a really important opportunity for unions to share their experiences, talk about some of the pressures that affiliates are under, and begin to look at how we can build support for affiliates. I think, Sierra Leone, for instance, spoke about the ways in which the World Bank is pushing energy to privatize, and in fact is extending that now to privatizing water. So I think, as Edmund has outlined as well, the problem of the Ghanaian government pushing for privatization, with very, very undoubtedly with the influence of the World Bank in the background. Yeah, so maybe I'll leave it there, and just to say that PSI very much in building the sort of voice and network of PSI affiliates in the region, we are very much doing that hand in hand with TUED, and value our the work that we're doing with TUED and the important contribution that TUED makes, and our motive, our drive is to support our trade unions in the different countries who are affiliated to PSI, both to improve workers' conditions on the ground, but also to ensure that service delivery in the energy sector meets the needs in the country, and that it's not done through privatization. I think, just to conclude, is that I think one of the driving kind of imperatives that is underlying the way forward for us as PSI is to not allow governments to turn the climate crisis and the need to go through transitions, energy transition, etc., not to turn them into commercial opportunities for extreme profit making or any profit making. So yeah, let me stop there. I think I was well under my 5 minutes.
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah, your timekeeping was good. Yes, I think there clearly will be a lot for us to discuss in relation to some of the challenges being faced by PSI affiliates in Africa, in the energy sector. And as TUED, we look forward to rolling out a program with yourselves on how we deepen our understanding of what's happening in the energy sector and assist unions build their capacity to campaign and struggle against privatization. I want to recognize, but I won't be able to give him a platform to speak because of time. I want to recognize the General Secretary of the Ghana Union that's dealing with the privatization struggle, and that convened the Comrade Nyame, who convened the press conference. Comrade, you'll forgive me for not allowing you to greet, but we're going to run out of time soon. And welcome to all those who've just joined us. I want to turn over, without wasting any more time, to our comrade who's going to present the main paper, and thank those who gave us the updates and the short reports. Comrade Elias Ben Amar is a member of the General Federation of Electricity and Gas Workers Union. It is an affiliate of the UGTT in Tunisia. They are also members of a working group for energy democracy. He's going to present to us in a summarized way, Comrade Elias, I hope, a research paper on which he's worked. He has a long association with TUED, and his papers on the real cost of private solar in Tunisia. You have about 20 minutes, and if you exceed that, you will forgive us for interrupting you. Over to you, Comrade Elias.
أهلا وسهلا، صباح الخير، مساء الخير. قبل كل شيء أنا أريد أن أتوجه بالشكر لتياد وكامل فريق تياد من أجل إتاحة هذه الفرصة لتقديم الورقة البحثية بعنوان الكلفة الحقيقية للطاقات المتجددة. وقد اتخذنا المشاريع الإنتاج المستقل الكهربائي في تونس كنموذج لذلك. قبل كل شيء سنتعرض للدوافع والأسباب التي جعلتنا نقوم بإعداد هذه الوثيقة. كما تعلمون تونس من البلدان التي راهنت على السردية النيوليبرالية.
Comrade Elias, I apologize for interrupting you. The Arabic interpretation to English we're not getting. Can someone just fix that quickly before you continue, Comrade Elias?
Hello? Do you
Elias,
listen to me?
Elias, are you in the channel that's...
Hello?
Elias, can you hear me?
Sorry, can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yes, okay.
I had a problem with the connection here.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
sounds good.
All right, we can hear you now.
Okay.
All right, proceed, Elias.
تونس من البلدان التي راهنت
Is one of the
على انتقال طاقي مدعوم من المؤسسات المالية العالمية.
be a transmission
الذي دفعنا أكثر للقيام
or commit a transition of
بإعداد هذه
power.
الوثيقة هو أنه لاحظنا
But
أنه من
what
سنة
we wanted to
2015
do is
تاريخ
the paper is to
تركيز أول
focus
مخطط
on the
للانتقال الطاقي وإلى سنة 2023
electricity
تاريخ
or energy
إعادة
على
التخطيط
هذه
للانتقال الطاقي. لاحظنا أن هناك تسارع نحو
we
الاعتماد
noticed
على
that
القطاع
there's
الخاص في هذا المجال.
quick
وهنا سأبرز بعض الأرقام بخصوص
change.
ذلك. في سنة
There's a lot of numbers
2015 كان
in
نصيب القطاع الخاص
2015.
هو 50%
The
من كل
private
مشاريع
sector
الطاقة المجددة
at 50%
المزعوم
of
إنشاؤها.
the renewable energy,
بينما في مخطط سنة 2023 نلاحظ
while
أن
in 2023
نصيب القطاع الخاص تجاوز
private
70%.
sector
أيضا في هذا النصيب للقطاع
being
الخاص
about 80%.
كانت المحطات الصغيرة هي ذات
Small
النسبة الكبيرة في 2015. ولكن نلاحظ منذ سنة 2023
in
اعتماد كلي
2023
على
was
اللزمات، أو بمعنى أصح اعتماد
reliability,
كلي على
and there
المحطات
was reliance
الكبيرة
on
التي من
the
جملة
big stations,
4900 ميجا وات سيتم تركيزها خلال 2030.
1,096
نلاحظ
megawatts.
هناك
I'm sorry, can I
3000 ميجا
interrupt
وات
for a second,
ستكون من
Elias?
نصيب الاستثمارات الأجنبية
Apologies.
المباشرة.
Elias, just wait a minute, please.
Sorry, the interpretation in the Arabic interpretation, the sound is going in and
هناك
out.
مشكل ما.
Is it possible to is there something to do with the mic perhaps?
هل هناك مشكل في الصوت؟
إلياس تسمع فيا؟
There is a problem in
It's not
the
on,
sound.
it's not Elias's mic, it's the interpreter, Ahmed.
Interpreter mic.
Is there
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah,
Yes,
that sounds better, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure
And very soft.
if you can hear me.
Can we ask Elias to start again, because we're doing pretty well for time, and I think there was a lot in that opening few minutes that we missed. I certainly did. if
Okay,
possible.
but I want to ask Comrade Elias to speak slightly slower, and then maybe break up the sentences so that we can follow the interpretation properly.
ألو
إلياس تسمع فينا؟
إذا ممكن أن تتحدث بشكل أبطأ أخي إلياس، هل يمكنك سماعي؟
إلياس, do you hear us?
Okay.
ألو
Okay, you can proceed, Comrade Elias, but speak slowly and in smaller sentences.
ليه احكي بشوية.
أوكي أوكي
إلياس تسمع فينا؟
نسمع فيك هي ليه خاطر
قالوا لك
قلت انك
عاود
I can hear you, yes.
قالوا لك عاود من الأول واحكي بشوية خاطر الترجمة ما كانتش تخدم بالكدا.
اوكي
أوكي ميرسي.
Proceed, Elias.
اوكي اتس اوكي اوكي
برا الياس دي ماريا.
باي. قبل كل شيء أريد أن أتوجه
For
بالشكر
everything, I wanted to thank
فريق TUED
everyone
على
and
إتاحة هذه
everyone in
الفرصة
TUED for the
لإلقاء الضوء
opportunity to shed
حول الورقة
light
البحثية
on this paper
بخصوص الكلفة الحقيقية للطاقات
about
المتجددة
the real cost of
بالنسبة
renewable
للمحطات الخاصة في
energy
تونس.
in or at the
أولاً
it
سأتحدث
station
عن
in.
الدوافع.
First, I want to talk about the motivations.
أود أن أتحدث عن الدوافع والأسباب
And the
التي
reasons
جعلتنا نعد هذه الوثيقة.
that made us
كما
make
تعلمون
paper.
تونس مثل كل البلدان
As you
شمال
know,
أفريقيا
Tunis, as
خاصة المغرب
in all
ومصر
countries
من
in
البلدان
Africa, like
التي
Egypt and Morocco,
اتبعت نموذجا نيوليبراليا في مجال
those countries
الانتقال الطاقي. هذا النموذج النيوليبرالي المملى من المؤسسات
followed a
المالية
liberal
العالمية
renewable energy system
ركز أساسا على
and
المحطات
focused on
الكبيرة والمستثمرة
big
من
stations and
طرف
for which
الشركات
were invested
الأجنبية الخاصة.
by the
ولاحظنا منذ سنة
bigger
2023
private
تسريعا
companies,
في
and
هذا
we know
النوع من
in
المشاريع،
2023
إذ أنه لاحظنا
fast track
أنه بين مخططات
and
2023
among the plans in
2015
2023 and in
لاحظنا أنه
2015,
نسبة أو
we noticed
حصة
that the
المنتجين الخواص من مشاريع الطاقة
the
المتجددة
private
المزمع
sector
إنشاؤها لغاية سنة 2030
until 2023, 2030,
تم
sorry,
الزيادة بها قرابة 50%،
there was an
يعني
increase of
انتقلنا
50%.
من قرابة 1500 ميجاوات
We
إلى 3000 ميجاوات من جملة
were from
4900 ميجاوات سيتم تركيزها في سنة
4,000 to
2030.
5,000,
بالطبع هذا الكل وفي ظل الدعاية
and
الرسمية
under the
الدعاية الرسمية التي تعتمد أساسا على
official
السردية
advertisement
الليبرالية.
that
فكرنا كمجموعة عمل وكان
depends on the
في
liberal.
تونس من إعداد هذه الوثيقة حول الكلفة الحقيقية. في هذه الوثيقة مضامين هذه
That's why
الوثيقة
we wanted to
متعددة. هناك أولا تحليل للكلفة
do this or
إنتاج
to
الكهرباء
investigate
من طرف الهيكل العمومي
our paper.
ألا وهو الشركة التونسية للكهرباء والغاز. هذه الكلفة
This cost,
هذه الكلفة المبنية
which is built on the mix of the renewable energy stations and the gas operated one. The reason or the goal of it is to provide capacity and to provide renewable energy in the electricity or the energy sector. And when there is sun, there's more production. And when there is private sector in Tunis, and that's why we wanted to and government is tries to actually provide and the government is actually لا أقدر على سماع المتحدث الآن. هل يمكننا بالنسبة للمحطات الخاصة
Can I ask, sorry to interrupt, Elias, can I ask the Arabic interpreter to speak a little more clearly? He's muffled. Comrade Ahmed, you are muffled in the mic. Can you just
I think
please?
I have an issue, I think connection issue. I'm not sure. And if the speaker can actually speak slowly. I don't know if he's hearing me not right now. أخي إلياس فيك تسمعني؟
All right, proceed, Elias, continue. And if the interpreter can just speak clearly into the mic. Yeah, it's fine. Please proceed.
تسمعني؟ We talked about the carbon that the company actually I'm sorry guys, I don't hear him well. If you can give me maybe 2 minutes.
Okay, can we have Ilias pause? Ilias, I'm sorry, there's a problem with the sound and interpretation. Is there any way that you could present in French, which I know is not your preference at all, but we are struggling with the, I don't know, there's an audio and whatever interpretation issue. So would it be possible for you to present in French? If that is okay, then you would need to go into the French channel in the interpretation.
He doesn't need to. He just can talk normally. Just yes, he can just talk in French.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, it's okay. We can hear you. Merci.
Thank you.
Sorry for speaking in Arabic first, but I'm going to speak now in French. So I'm going to start from the very beginning. First of all, I would like to thank TUED for this paper. We analyzed the cost of production of the Tunisian company of gas, and we compared it with the different BPPs that were installed in Tunisia. For example, For example, we analyze the capacity of different companies, and we recalculated the real cost of 5 projects. For example, we got, for example, the price of purchase, and then we analyzed the backup, and we calculated the costs that are very distant from the cost of the Tunisian company. So this first comparison actually allowed us to analyze the real situation of the different costs of the private companies if compared to the costs of the electric energy. And we saw that there is a mix that is used by the company, which is completely dominated by the use of natural gas. And since 2016, there are interdictions, there are prohibitions by the state in order to actually favor foreign investments. So they block the public projects in this area of renewable energies. And we analyzed all the motivations that were used and the arguments that were used by the state to actually stimulate the foreign investment. For example, we analyzed the carbon credits that were these carbon credits were given like a gift to the private sector. And this actually affected the small producers of renewable energy. And this inflated the price of the electricity. So finally, this work has the idea is to create a narrative that can actually face the neoliberal narrative. And it is done by trade unionists. And this is important in this paper because usually this sort of work is done by universities. But in our case, we collaborated with trade unionists in order to do the whole paper with them. Thank you very much indeed.
Are you done, Comrade Elias?
Done.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right, thank you. Yes, you're done. Thank you for that presentation. The paper can be circulated if you haven't received it yet. We have sent it out with the notice for the meeting and the reminders. The paper is in English and we have a summarized version in a bulletin. We will attempt to send it out again for all comrades. We apologize profusely for the interruptions and our inability to hear. I'm now opening up the forum for discussion, questions, contributions. Please raise your hand and you'll be recognized to contribute to the discussion. Is there anyone who'd like to go first? There's clearly a lot of detail in the paper, and Elias was put under time constraints and told he needs to summarize. But I think we can still pick up some issues. I see a hand. I suspect it's going to be in Portuguese. Comrade Americo, you may go. Comrade Americo Macamo, I'm recognizing you to speak. Unmute yourself. All right, we can't hear you because you're still muted. Is there anyone? Okay, comrade, you need to unmute. You've opened your camera, but you're still muted. All right, in the meantime, all right, comrade, you can go. I can unmute it. Please go.
Pardon. Thank you. We'd like to say hi to all the countries. We are from Mozambique. We work in the syndicate in Mozambique. It was good to hear how the electricity is being worked in some countries. We're gonna talk what happened in Mozambique actually. In Mozambique, we have a company that is responsible of contribution of the energy. So this company is being used in our country. It's been used for everything. Yeah. So this electricity, this renewable electricity that we are using, is not something that is being superior yet. So it's only in private sectors. So we don't have yet a program that we've been working with, so we can improve those the electricity. Yes, there are some companies that are saying that they are working to make it better, but they haven't yet started to build a mechanism that we can use and implement this energy in our country. But it was good to hear how other countries are working to improve, and we would like to also be part of it and also share ideas and experiences from each other. Thank you.
All right, that's really helpful, and we agree with you. And that's the purpose of the regional quarterly meetings. And we encourage comrades to bring others to the next meeting, because the idea is to share, each one teach one, we learn. We've noted your interventions from Mozambique, and maybe after this meeting, we'll try and follow up with you. Comrade Brian, in the absence of other hands, Comrade Brian, do you want to pick up a few things? I saw a note from you.
Thanks, Comrade. I do see a question from Comrade Yaku, but that's on South Africa, and I'm going to address it in chat and if there's time later. Comrade Elias, thank you so much for your presentation. First, I just want to say that it's so exciting also to see in these meetings inputs coming directly from unions in our region, and I'm just excited to see this work on that level alone. And I have two questions for you. The first one is, could you explain a little bit about the process that you went through to get together the working group to develop this paper? If you could share that a bit. And related to this too, I know that from my understanding, of course, gas is very central to close to universal access to electricity in North Africa, which has not been achieved anywhere else on the continent. South Africa is around 85% or so. What is the union attitude at this time to your proposals around, a more public approach to investment in renewable energy? Is there enough trust? Is there momentum behind an idea of looking at investment and strategizing around how to approach renewable energy? I'm just curious about those two things. Thanks again, Comrade Elias.
Comrade Elias, did you get those 2 points made by Comrade Brian? And are you able to respond before we take further?
Yes, that's fine. Yes, understood. Right. So in terms of statistics, on the one hand, it's a great problem for us because we are right now, in terms of trade unionists, members of the Council of Administration FST, but we cannot use
because there are restrictions. That's why we chose to use statistics that are official and that are actually published by the state. That is the first obstacle for us. We have, for example, we made this comparison between the different solar energy and renewable energy companies of the private sector and the public sector. But the problem is that there are usually those numbers, they are confidential. So it's very complicated. So the idea is to compare how the private sector will satisfy the needs of the consumers during 1,800 hours. So, and we also want to compare it to with the gas sector. And what we noticed is that the Tunisian company of electricity and gas will satisfy the needs of the consumers with a lower price than the private sector. So we tried to use statistics that are issued by the World Bank and by the financial international institutions, because for us, this is a challenge to use those numbers and to compare that. And that's what we did with this paper. As for the second question, of course, with the natural gas, of course, our objective is to be able to satisfy and to have the continuity of the public services of electricity or utilities for all the Tunisians. That is our objective. The idea is that our energetic mix should be dominated by renewable energies, of course, but without neglecting the importance of fossil fuels in order to facilitate the continuity of the satisfactions of the consumer's needs. I hope to have been able to answer Brian.
Okay, thanks for that response. So there's a question in the chat, Comrade Brian. You'll indicate if on South Africa and a somewhat technical question, you'll indicate if you want to respond to that later. I wanted to check with Comrade Sabe. Is there anything around Comrade Elias's input you either want to emphasize or point out? I don't know if you want to come in for a minute or two.
Yeah, just quickly, I want to add that the trade union right now, they already published a statement where they are telling the people that there is these multinationals are hijacking the energy transition in our country, and they are taking our lands for to accumulate money and to make a profit. Also, there is some sort of advocacy campaign right now by the Tunisian civil society and some progressive groups trying to reach the deputies in the parliament. We are trying to convince them to block, stop, and delay these agreement with these multinationals. Of course, the first resistant front is the trade union. We must and we need a powerful trade union if we want to stop and block this privatization of renewables in Tunisia. I believe the situation right now for the Tunisian trade union is a kind of hard. They are struggling a lot with the authority in Tunisia, but we need to continue doing our job and collaborate and create a resistant front with the civil society and the progressive groups, and we try our best to stop this. That's my intervention. Thank you.
Yeah, I thanks for that. I see a hand. I'm coming to it. I think, Comrade Sabe, you emphasize a few important things, and that is we can't struggle and fight without organization. We can't struggle and fight without coalitions. One organization can't do this on their own, and that we won't be able to make the change unless we campaign and struggle around it. And I think that through its network and coalition, that's what TUED is trying to do, how we learn from each other and how organizations and comrades can support each other. I see your hand, Comrade Lala. You can proceed.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lala. I'm the Latin America coordinator at TUED, and I wanted to come in quickly. Ilyas, thank you so much for your work and for allowing TUED to publish it on the website. I wanted to comment that when I was reading the report, it was extremely helpful to also understand what is happening in Latin America and the union struggles for public renewables in Latin America. We know that the electricity sector is by far in Latin America the one that has been hardest hit by privatizations of multinationals like the Spanish Iberdrola or the Italian Enel. And in Colombia, fortunately, the progressive administration of Gustavo Petro, our first leftist president, along with the trade unions, there's 7 or so trade unions in the electricity sector of Colombia that are part of the TUED network, have been fighting to make large-scale renewables state-owned and also to have small-scale distributed community energy, community and state-owned as well. So the argument in Colombia is that we have an 80% state-owned oil and gas company, Ecopetrol, which the union movement has defended to maintain under public ownership, and that it should be Ecopetrol to act as an energy company instead of just oil and gas, and to generate renewable energy as the largest state-owned company. And because most of our transmission is publicly owned, it's the backbone of our electricity system. It's public. Let's keep it public and let's use it. So the grid operator, XM, is owned by the transmission company, ISA, which is owned by Ecopetrol. Our infrastructure is public. The most obvious option is to fight to trade unions to fight to maintain it under public ownership and to expand where possible. So for example, the electricity generation company, Isagen, was privatized under the previous neoliberal model, and it was sold to a Canadian company called Brookfield, which has completely destroyed the infrastructure. It has not put any investment into the maintenance of it. And when I was reading Comrade Ilyas's text, there were so many parallels between the Tunisian example and the Colombian example in terms of the damage that private ownership does to what is otherwise the obvious solution: public renewable energy, public transmission companies, public state-owned oil and gas companies that turn into energy companies and that can generate renewable energy. So I find it really motivating and exciting to see these parallels between North Africa and Latin America, and to know that trade unions are in the front line fighting for it to be publicly owned. So thank you so much, Comrade Ilyas. It's really exciting work.
Yeah, and I think that what we'll have to do, given our difficulties at the start of the meeting in terms of the interpretation, is we'll have to find other platforms to take this paper forward and other discussions. I wanted to check, Comrade Yaku of AIDC, I see in the chat that Comrade Brian of TUED has attempted to answer your question, your very technical question, I must add. But thanks for that. And if you want to come back on it, please do. If I don't see any other hands, I want to put Comrade Sean a little bit on the spot. And I know there were difficulties in hearing, but I know, Comrade Sean, you've gone through the paper and will be able to speak to us about other examples. I want to give you a minute or two to intervene if you'd like to.
Yes, of course. Thank you, comrades, and Ilias for a really important piece of work, and all the comrades who worked on it deserve our thanks and congratulations. I mean, just speaking from the TUED perspective, I mean, the project has been growing now for a number of years, but the growth is accelerating because there's a crisis in the neoliberal model of energy transition. We see countries pulling back from their commitments, and our task as unions, I think, and why this report is particularly important, is not to try to prop up the old climate policy, which was based on de-risking private investment, making sure that private capital achieved adequate profit margins. This is a highly expensive, socially regressive model, and that's one of the reasons why it's in trouble. So when we get a Donald Trump or a Malay or some of the right-wing politicians in Europe saying, let's get rid of climate policy, our response shouldn't be, no, no, save the planet, because the policies that have been put forward to advance the energy transition have been very, very bad for the working class because they favored private capital. So this is our moment, and this report has the necessary empirical, analytical content that we need in every country. I've just, been following the situation in Mexico, where the government there has announced its plans for the electricity sector, which is, in short, to reduce dramatically the role of the independent power producers, to expand dramatically the role of the public utilities, CFE, and to embark on a program of what is called energy justice. Now, this is just a plan. It will meet many obstacles: the private sector, the US government, the Canadian government, international finance, but it is a vision, or the beginnings of a vision, of a public pathway approach in practice. And I think these kind of reports, the one that Ilias and the comrades in Tunisia put together, have an enormous role to play. But I would appeal to the other comrades on this call: get into the details, because if we don't know the details, if we can't grasp the policy nuances, then we are faced with a situation where as soon as there is an objection or a challenge, we are confused, like deer in the headlights, as they say in some countries of the global north, maybe the global south too. So it's just really a personal thanks, and I think I'm speaking for the TUED team already, for the great work that have been done with this analysis. But let's dig deeper and learn from what Ilias and his comrades have put together. So I'll stop there.
Thanks, Comrade Sean. Appreciate it. So there are two things quickly before I recognize any other hand. The one is Comrade Edmund from Ghana has put in the chat a very useful comment. There are other useful comments. I would urge comrades to check what comrades are saying in the chat. He says that the Global South governments keep adopting neoliberal models despite the constant failure of this model across so many countries in the past 4 decades. And that's something we've got to pick up in our continued discussion and networking across the region. The second thing I want to do is, amongst the comrades who have joined, and we appreciate everyone's participation, but one of the new comrades who has joined us in a TUED regional meeting is the PSI Arab Region Secretary, Comrade Najwa, and I think on behalf of TUED, I want to say we appreciate you bringing other comrades from your region who are joining our regional quarterly meeting for the first time. Welcome, comrades, as well as others who have joined from outside the continent of Africa. We appreciate your participation and hope we are going to find ways to network across our country boundaries. Are there any more hands for me to recognize, or are there comments in the chat that somebody wants to elaborate on? Importantly for us as TUED is to continue to work outside the quarterly meetings, to continue the networking. TUED has resource people, they're few, but their reach is far. And through learning from each other, I think we can capacitate ourselves. We learn from you every day as well. Are there any other hands, or can I hand over to Comrade Elias to pull together, or Comrade Sabe, whichever one of you? I want Elias to pull together a few concluding remarks. But before I do that, whilst I've highlighted a few comments Comrade Sabe makes about building organization, he also points us to an important model they have in Tunisia, which is a coalition between movements and trade unions. And in many parts of our country, including ourselves in South Africa, we tend to work only as unions in our struggles or as movements. And in Tunisia, they tell us they have a coalition to take the struggle forward on energy, useful model. Before I hand over to Comrade Elias to have the last say, Comrade Sabe, is there a few comments you want to make? Because I want Comrade Elias to close the meeting for us. Comrade Sabe, is there a few things you want to add?
Yes, I think one of the most important point that Elias tried to make by his paper is that the public sector provide cheaper energy that more than the private sector. And the one argument that the EFIs, the World Bank, and the financial institution try to make us to believe that the private sector can provide the cheaper energy, it's not true. It's just not true. That's the analysis provided by Elias's paper, that the public sector can provide a cheaper energy more than the private sector. Second, Elias also mentioned one important idea. It's about the carbon credits. What happened in Tunisia that the private multinationals, they took the carbon credit, the national electricity company. They took it. They just took it. It's belonged to the people. It's belonged to our public sector, but they took it to make more profit, which is not right. That's why some deputies in the parliament they believe this is a corruption case, and they took it to the court. And the last thing I need to mention that there is an ongoing process, an ongoing dynamic between the trade union, the civil society, the progressive groups. We work on many issues, from the land issue, the land grabbing, the privatization of energy, but also on the level of energy imperialism and energy colonialism. And that is what we are seeing clearly in our countries by mega projects like renewables, but also like another mega projects like the El Med interconnection between Tunisia and Italy, the electricity interconnection. So yes, we have a long way to go, and we are doing our best. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Comrade Sabe. So the struggle for energy sovereignty, you're emphasizing. Comrade Elias, I wanted you to have a few closing remarks, but before I do that, Comrade Brian, sorry to do this to you again. Can you come in for a minute or two, please? Stick to the time, and just update us on some important work you're doing in relation to Mission 300 and the compacts many of our governments have already signed. If you could just tell us what Mission 300 is and why it's important that you pull together a database on those compacts. Over to you, Comrade Brian.
Thanks, comrades. Really less than a minute. But in our last regional meeting, we had a discussion about Mission 300, and it's the mechanism or the campaign through which SDG 7 is now being articulated. And in there, under the Mission 300 initiative, you can find that on the World Bank website. I've posted a link. Since the time that we first started raising this issue with our network, we've seen over 30 countries now have energy compacts. And now our question to you, comrades, is do you see your country there in the list of compacts? Have you seen that document before? And have unions in your country been involved in negotiating this? I think that's an open question that we have. We don't see, I've gone through quite a few of the documents and I don't see labor mentioned at all. Now, the comment there was we keep falling for neoliberal policies. There are also compacts. Compacts is also labor, social dialogue language. There are compacts now also happening without even some of our comrades, seeing this or having the ability to participate. So we must contest wherever these decisions are happening. We will be trying to summarize some of what we're seeing, but I do just want to put it on your radar, comrades. If you see something, open up, see if your country has a compact. If you want to take it up with us, please reach us after this. Thank you, Comrade Sri, and we'll talk to you later, comrades.
Comrade Brian, we'll check after this meeting if there is an appetite for unions or countries for us to present on Mission 300 and the compacts. It's a lot of work you've put into the database and be useful if you could take some time to help us unpack it, but we'll see how many comrades are interested in further exploring that. Comrade Elias, let me allow you a few concluding remarks. We've appreciated your interventions, your paper. Apologies again for the interpretation problems, but let me hand over to you and give you a minute or two with a few concluding remarks.
There is one more hand up.
My apologies, I didn't see it. Okay, sorry, Comrade Jeff Rudin from AIDC. Let me hear you.
Sorry, I want Elias to go first, but I'm just giving notice that before we close, if it's possible for me to have a 30-second conversation with Sean. They can't get hold of him any other way, if that's possible.
No, Comrade Jeff, that's not possible. I will ensure that I link you and Comrade Sean up. You can't use this platform for the conversation. But I understand your point.
Okay.
You will allow me to push you back. We are from the same organization. It's fine. Let me hand over to Comrade Elias. Comrade Sean, can you respond to Comrade Jeff's messages? Comrade Elias, let me hand over to you.
Elias micro.
I would like to thank you again for offering this opportunity to present our paper. So this paper for us is a step that is necessary, but is not enough. It is true that in the ideological battle, we need to use all our weapons, but I think that what is more important in that sort of battle is the field. Be it in Tunisia, but mainly in Africa, we have to work on the field. We have to make local alliances, international alliance, in order to be able to share our experiences. Because the narrative, because there is a relation of forces that is dominated by the neoliberal narrative. And also because, like Sean said, we are in a state with Trump and with populism that in America, in Europe, in Tunisia, in the Arab countries, there is this populism, with slogans of national sovereignty, but effectively, in fact, they are the same interests, neoliberal interests that have to do with energy. And we want to work and to continue working, have a paper for the whole of Africa, not only for Tunisia. And we want to work with TUED and with countries in the north and in the south in order to have an alliance against this war logics and this neoliberal logics that continues to dominate our world. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for that, Comrade Elias. You're correct. Much of what we deal with around energy and other sectors is driven by neoliberal logic of the market, and it is our task to push back and fight back. Comrades who can't remember receiving the paper, Elias's paper, we're encouraging you as TUED to please read it. If you need us to resend you a copy, we will do so. You have our contact details. We encourage you to go to the TUED website. There's several important, exciting bulletins there on experiences and struggles that are taking place both in the South and some other ideological positions against World Bank, IMF conditionalities on energy. We continue the series of the quarterly meetings. They don't only take place in Africa. We have them in Asia. We have at the time zone issue in Asia is difficult. Lala convenes them in Latin America. We encourage you to affiliate to TUED. You can go into the website. There are links on how you can do that. We'll pick up comrades from Mozambique. We hear you. We'll try and follow up with you. We'll pick up with the Tunisian comrades how we take this work forward. They're trying to convene a school workshop, regional meeting. We'll come back to you on that. And we appreciate the comrades who've joined us from outside the African continent. Our challenge in the continent of Africa is how we bring our different parts of the region and sectors and unions together, how we work together, how we build our capacities together. We're not alone in the fight, and TUED is happy to assist where we can. I want to close the meeting and thank you for both your participation, availing yourself. Please stay in touch. We all have important work to do. And as we say in South Africa, Amandla, the struggle continues. Goodbye, and let's connect again. The meeting is
Bye, and
standing.
thanks to all of you.